صباح الخير. عناوين اليوم: الإمارات تفرض ضريبة للشركات، سوني تستحوذ على بنجي، وجوجل درايف يوقف النسخ الاحتياطية. يا أهلا وسهلا فيكم ببرنامجكم صباحكم مع سماشي، معي أنا هالة بسام. واليوم وبداية وقبل ما نبدأ أخبارنا لليوم، حاب أخبركم أنه تقام يومي 23 و 24 فبراير النسخة العاشرة من مؤتمر ستيب المتخصص بريادة الأعمال وتمكين المبدعين والمبتكرين في مجالات التكنولوجيا، ورح تكون بالشراكة الاستراتيجية مع مدينة دبي للإنترنت. ويقام هذا الحدث بمشاركة أكثر من 400 شركة تقنية عالمية ناشئة، ورح يكون في جدول حافل أيضا بورش العمل وجلسات نقاشية بتتناول موضوعات بارزة ومهمة جدا عم تحدث تحولات كبرى في عالم التكنولوجيا والاقتصاد بشكل عام. منها رح نحكي عن الرموز الغير القابلة للاستبدال، NFT، الويب 3 والعملات المشفرة، بالإضافة أيضا إلى التقنيات المالية. من أحد السبيكرز اللي رح يكونوا متواجدين بستاب إلي حبيب مثلا من أنغامي، أيضا بول من أمازون، والعديد من الأشخاص من تويتر، من تابي، من كيتوبي، والعديد من الشركات الناشئة الرائدة في منطقتنا العربية حاليا. ونحن طبعا سعيدين جدا أنه رح نكون الشريك الإعلامي لهذا الحدث الضخم، فخلينا نشوفكم كلكم هنيك. للناس اللي حابة تعرف أكثر عن الإيفنت والمؤتمر أو حابين تشتروا التيكتس، ففيكم تزوروا موقعهم dubai.stepconference.com. وخلونا نبدأ أخبارنا لليوم، ونبدأ أول خبر معنا عن دولة الإمارات. قررت الإمارات استحداث ضريبة اتحادية جديدة تطبق لأول مرة على أرباح الشركات، رح تكون اعتبارا من يونيو 2023. يعد هذا القرار الجديد بمثابة إلغاء لنظام الإعفاء الضريبي اللي ساعد في جعل الإمارات نقطة جذب للشركات من جميع أنحاء العالم. ولكن قالت وزارة المالية في بيان على موقعها الإلكتروني على أنه الضريبة الجديدة ستطبق بنسبة أساسية تبلغ 9%، ودعما للأعمال الناشئة والأعمال الصغيرة اللي بتحقق أرباح ما بتتجاوز أكثر من 375 ألف درهم، يعني ما يعادل تقريبا 300، يعني طبعا الدولار يعادل 3.67 درهم الآن. لذلك رح يتم منحها وإعفاء من الضريبة المقررة. لذلك لكل شركة ناشئة صغيرة ما بتتجاوز أرباحها 375 ألف درهم رح يتم إعفائها من الضريبة المقررة. وهذا القرار أكدت على الصعيد الآخر الوزارة أنه لن تفرض ضريبة الشركات على الدخل الشخصي المكتسب من الوظيفة أو من أنشطة الاستثمارات العقارية أو غيرها من الاستثمارات الأخرى، أو على أي دخل ممكن آخر يكسبه الأفراد، وحتى ولا ينشأ عن أعمال أو عن أي شكل من أشكال أخرى للأنشطة التجارية المرخصة أو حتى المسموح فيها في الدولة. عم تتنافس الآن دول الخليج حاليا على جذب الاستثمارات الأجنبية، فيما عم تشتد المنافسة بين الإمارات والسعودية اللي عم بيقدموا حوافز كبيرة جدا وإيجابية جديدة لتشجيع الشركات الدولية على تحويل مقرها الإقليمية إلى دول أخرى. طبعا في كتير ناس عم تسأل ما هي ضريبة الشركات؟ ضريبة الشركات اللي رح يتم تطبيقها في الدولة هي شكل من أشكال الضرائب المباشرة المفروضة على صافي الدخل أو الربح اللي بتحققه الشركات والأعمال الأخرى، وتسمى في بعض الدول الأخرى بضريبة دخل الشركات أو ضريبة أرباح الأعمال. والسؤال اللي بدور ببال كثيرين من الأشخاص إنه ليش عم تستحدث دولة الإمارات ضريبة للشركات الآن؟ فرض ضريبة الشركات بناء على أفضل الممارسات الدولية رح يعزز مكانة الإمارات كمركز للأعمال والاستثمار، ورح يسرع أيضا بتطوير الدولة وتحولها لتحقيق أهدافها الاستراتيجية. كما أنه يعد أيضا تجديدا من الدولة لالتزامها نحو استيفاء المعايير الدولية للشفافية الضريبية ومنع الممارسات الضريبية الضارة. ورح يتم تطبيق ضريبة الشركات على جميع إمارات الدولة، طبعا لأنها ضريبة اتحادية، ورح تكون الهيئة الاتحادية للضرائب هي الجهة المسؤولة عن إدارة وتحصيل وتنفيذ ضريبة الشركات في الدولة. ورح تخضع أيضا الأعمال المؤسسة في المناطق الحرة لضريبة الشركات، ولكن رح يستمر نظام ضريبة الشركات بالدولة في تقديم الحوافز الضريبية المقدمة حاليا لشركات المناطق الحرة والممتثلة لكافة المتطلبات التنظيمية والتي لا تمارس أنشطة تجارية في أراضي دولة الإمارات الرئيسية. خليكم معنا لنهاية برنامج اليوم، عنا مقابلة رح نحكي فيها بالتفاصيل عن تأثير الضريبة على الشركات الناشئة تحديداً. أما عن ثاني خبر معنا لليوم ننتقل إلى شركة سوني. وافقت شركة سوني على الاستحواذ على مطور ألعاب الفيديو بنجي مقابل 3.6 مليار دولار، مما يضاف إلى موجة الاندماجات اللي حدثت في شهر يناير. بنجي طبعا هي الشركة اللي بتقف وراء ألعاب كبيرة مثل هالو وديستني أيضا، واللي تم تطويرها حتى عام 2010. وكانت مايكروسوفت قد استحوذت على بنجي في عام 2000 ولكنها انفصلت عنها في عام 2007، وارتفعت أسهم سوني بنحو 4.5% خلال تعاملات جلسة الاثنين بعد الإعلان عن هذه الصفقة. وبتهتم شركات التكنولوجيا بشكل متزايد بالألعاب، حيث عم تتطلع شركات التكنولوجيا إلى توسع نطاق شعبيتها عبر هذا القطاع. فأعلنت مثل ما شفنا شركة مايكروسوفت خلال منتصف شهر يناير إنها رح تشتري عملاق ألعاب الفيديو أكتيفيجن في صفقة بقيمة 68.7 مليار دولار. وأيضا عم نشوف العديد من الصفقات الأخرى لشركات الألعاب، وهذا دليل إنه هذا القطاع كل ماله بازدهار ويعني رح يتطور بشكل كبير جدا أيضا. أما عن آخر خبر معنا لليوم نحكي أيضا عن عالم التكنولوجيا. الآن تقترب رحلة النسخ الاحتياطية اللي كانت لا محدودة لمحتوى واتساب على جوجل درايف من النهاية، مع تحديث جديد عم تستعد له جوجل لإطلاقه بالفترة المقبلة. وأشارت أحد التقارير وأحدث التقارير إلى أنه جوجل رح تسمح بالنسخ الاحتياطية لتطبيق واتساب من محادثات، صور، مقاطع فيديو، ولكن بحد. هذا الحد رح يكون بحد أعلى بيصل إلى 15 جيجا بايت فقط. وفي حال طبعا تم تجاوز حجم النسخ الاحتياطية، هذه السعة رح يتوجب على المستخدم شراء مساحة إضافية بمقابل على خدمة الدرايف. كانت الشركة على مدار السنوات الماضية قد وفرت خدمة النسخ الاحتياطية اللامحدودة لواتساب، ولكن ربما عم ترغب بالفترة المقبلة من الاستفادة أكثر ماليا عبر جعل المستخدمين بيدفعوا للاشتراكات لخدمة الدرايف للحصول على مساحة إضافية في حال كان المحتوى الخاص فيهم بيتجاوز 15 جيجا بايت. ويمكن القول أنه مساحة 15 جيجا بايت تعد كبيرة جدا للغالبية العظمى من المستخدمين، لذلك في حال تطبيق خطة للدفع رح يكون هناك نسبة ضئيلة رح تتخذ خيار الدفع للحصول على مساحة إضافية. ولكن مع استخدام واتساب واستخدام واتساب للبزنس أيضا، العديد من الناس عم بيتداولوا حتى الدوكيومنتس، ملفات، فيديوهات، صور عن طريق واتساب، فممكن تاخذ فعلا مساحة وتصل إلى 15 جيجا بايت. هذه كانت كل أخبارنا الصباحية لليوم. خليكم معنا بعد الفاصل مقابلتنا مع الرئيس التنفيذي والشريك المؤسس لشركة دارما شرف المنصوري. خليكم معنا ولا تروحوا لبعيد. ورجعنا لكم من جديد ومعنا ضيفنا لليوم الرئيس التنفيذي والشريك المؤسس لشركة دارما شرف المنصوري. Welcome to the show شرف and thank you for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
First of all, we would like to hear a brief about the company Dharma. You guys started in 2018, right?
Correct. Yes. Yeah, we started in 2018 out of London. Started as quite a simple premise. We used to approach yoga teachers, a lot of them that we were practicing with, and actually pitching them to run their retreat business. So we were like, hey, you're not a professional travel agent or professional. We think you could be running, 4 or 5 times more retreats a year regularly. So, outsource your retreat business to us and we'll take care of everything, white label and one-stop shop. So we started in that positioning in 2018.
Nice. And of course, I'm curious to know, how was COVID with you guys? Because you're heavily focused on the travel business, right?
Yeah, I mean, look, COVID was obviously, 2 years of P&L destruction, and so that's obviously the negative. The positive was actually on 3 levels. The first one was that we were able to find people, investors, and funds that actually we would never have connected with before COVID, because we were based between London and Marrakesh, and at the time, being the founders being based out of Marrakesh, was hard to pitch international investors. And then when COVID hit, actually kind of like the borders and the barriers came down, investors would never have considered an investment outside of their home country, started to look around the world. So I guess that was, and we come out of COVID with $3.5 million raised,
exactly,
from 4 continents, and from Europe, from Africa, from Asia, and from the US, with most of our investors we've actually never physically met to this day. So
wow.
For us, there was that. Then there's also the talent side of things. Which, can you hear me?
Yeah, of course I can hear you. Yeah.
There was also the talent side of things, which unfortunately, hundreds of thousands of people actually lost their jobs in the travel industry.
Yes.
And for us, that also meant that there was a lot of incredible talent and incredible resource that was on the market that we would never have been able to even touch a few months before. So we're able to build a team of 32 people now that we're so proud of and we're so grateful to work with every day.
How big is the team now?
32 people.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's quite crazy.
Yeah.
And then quite crazy for someone, and for a team that was 3 people going into COVID. And then the most exciting part is really coming out of it and just the prospect of travel coming back, being much more social media driven in the sense of distribution. So which plays exactly into our business model, and really the opportunities coming out of this, where all the kind of big boys in travel and all the traditional tour operators have retreated a little bit, and so us being in this kind of new space gives us a massive opportunity to capitalize on it.
But that's amazing. You managed to get an investment during COVID. That's really good. And you mentioned something really huge, I believe, which is you've never met any of the investors. So how did you convince them with Dharma and that it's worth the investment and the money?
Yeah, good question. Well, now I've met a good most of them after now that travel is open. So
yeah.
but when we signed the actual papers, I don't think we had actually physically not met any of them who signed with us. So how did I convince them? Well, first of all, this is 2 years of work later, so I guess this is the easy part, is to say how it is to tell the story. I think I kept track of all the calls that I made, and made more than 150 VC calls.
Wow.
Yeah, got
See,
a lot
that's
of
what people don't know, which is what happens behind the scenes, and even before actually you get the investment.
Oh yeah, no, well, first of all, when I went into this, I had no idea what I was doing. Right, the VC space was something I thought I knew, I didn't know, and so the first call, second call, third call, I started, being asked questions about ratios that I had never even considered, and then realized that, there's a whole education for me to have. So the education, I had it by getting on calls with VCs. I don't think there's another way to get it. And it's great because actually VCs are putting money into you, and usually when someone is investing or putting money into something, that's when they're fully transparent and fully honest. So I was getting some brutal feedback on where we were on our positioning, on our narrative, on our business model, etc. So 150 VC calls later, my personal education was much, my learning curve was much steeper than university even. But so I mean, my advice to anyone who's getting onto this train is just get on calls. Like, as embarrassing as the first ones will be, get on calls, understand, build your knowledge.
Do you remember the hardest question you got from a VC?
Well, the question is hard the first time.
Yeah.
And then you go back. I mean, you record it, you go back, you answer it, and then you're ready for it the second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth time. So, no, I remember the most the most demoralizing rejections I got. But I mean, questions. I think we have like a list of 60 Q&A questions that we're just so ready for now. And COVID being one of them, by the way.
Wow.
And yeah.
Interesting. And now you're based in Abu Dhabi, right?
Yeah, we are. We got picked up by the Hub 71 program, which is run by Mubashir.
Exactly. Tell us more about that. How does it help, especially startups who are just starting in the region?
Yeah, I mean, look. First of all, I guess the UAE is one of the rare countries that sets an agenda 50 years in advance.
Yeah.
So for us to be in the middle of COVID and for them to still believe and back a travel tech company is really that they're not thinking short term. So I think we're very lucky to be in this ecosystem in that regard. Abu Dhabi's provided a safe harbor for us to thrive during COVID, and hopefully allowing us the time, the resources to actually build a ship we can then go conquer the world with. With regards to Hub 71, it's a 2-year program, and it's a great ecosystem. We wouldn't be where we are without them. So it also puts you in front of VCs and funds, 2 of which have actually backed us. So BY Venture Partners and Shuruq, both of them based out of Abu Dhabi as well. Although BY is originally Beirut based.
Yeah.
And
big names.
We're working in the best conditions in the world. We're living in the best conditions in the world. So I mean, at some point, it's on us to deliver.
Also, you've done multiple partnerships in a very short period of time. So can you tell us more about them?
Yeah, of course. So we have a few accounts that we're really proud of. I mean, the one that I think changed the trajectory of our business is signing Equinox, which is a luxury gym based out of New York. They have about 300,000 members, and they're one of the biggest kind of lifestyle brand in the US. So we built a travel brand for them called Equinox Explorer, which is where I met my co-founder. She was managing director at Equinox Explorer, and then came on as co-founder, moved from New York to Abu Dhabi as well as our chief experience officer. So Equinox is definitely one that has been a game changer for us in that regard. We also have Eric Cantona, which I'm a fanboy of, and who I had designed or thought of a travel brand for probably 2 or 3 years ago already. So when we were pitching it to him 6 months ago or 8 months ago, it was almost surreal. And we launched Looking FC, so his travel brand, 2 weeks ago, which we're very proud of. We have, immense conviction that this will become quite a big football travel brand, if not the biggest. So very exciting and very excited. And then a few more coming in the pipeline. So we have a total of about 25 clients at the moment that we've launched travel brands for: yoga teachers, meditation instructors, fitness studios, and then a few celebrities coming down the road this year.
That's amazing. And you're talking about, as you said, like big names in a short period of time, and I would say in a challenging time as well.
Yeah, I mean, short period of time I mean, it's been 4 years. So, you know, when I think about it, it's like, man, it's been 4 years. It's been, you know, 14, 15-hour days. And by the way, like when you hear that hard work is always a part of it, you always have to work hard. You always have to work, you know, I was like, before I didn't understand it. And now I just realized it's actually just by default. There's no
other option.
way around it. Yeah, exactly. But it's not because you work hard that you succeed. It's just by design. At some point, at some point when things take off, it's just what needs to be done if you want to get to where you want to be. So yeah, I mean, look, it's been 4 years. I would say that, you know, like Eric, for example, was about 6 months of back and forth with him and his team.
Yeah.
So it's not as easy as or as fast as it seems. At least doesn't feel like it. But I guess once you have the momentum, then the second becomes easier, the third becomes easier, the fourth, the fifth, and so on.
100%. Thank you so much, Sharaf, for sharing your journey with us, and especially for being super transparent about your experience. It's really, really beneficial for other entrepreneurs. Thank you so much, Sharaf, and best of luck in your company.
Thanks for having me, guys. Take care.
Thank you. بعد الفاصل خليكم معنا بالحديث أكثر عن ضريبة الشركات. رح يكون معنا الرئيس التنفيذي لشركة أغسطس للإعلام ريتشارد فيتزجيرالد. خليكم معنا ولا تروحوا لبعيد.
Three, four, five.
Back today with Richard Fitzgerald, business owner, to talk more about the new rule of corporate tax. Welcome to the show, Richard.
Hi, Hala.
We'd like first to talk about it more. The percentage is 9%. There are a lot of questions about it. So can you tell us more about the tax?
Yeah, well, I mean, probably not the best person to list out all the rules. I know you went through the change and what it means, but I think, you know, often the analysis around these things, I think people need to, rather than give their own opinion of quick judgments, so this means this means that people won't want to have their businesses there, or how do I avoid, you know, some of the quick tweets yesterday were like, oh, people are going to pay higher salaries so they don't meet the threshold of the 375K. And then because they're not paying higher salaries and then they're not being taxed on their profits, then in the future, the governments are going to tax salaries and income tax and all this sort of like, and that's not good business. It's not good business to look at tax as loopholes and things like that. And I think, you know, good business isn't always for profits. It's not always for profits. Good business can be to innovate, to provide well-being, to contribute to the economy and society and things like that. That's good business. Yeah. So, and you have to look at taxes as well from, well, a macro and a micro level, but you have to look at taxes as an instrument. Taxes are tools. They're monetary policy, like fiscal and monetary policy, and they're economic levers and tools for governments. So generally, what they do is they can incentivize. They can incentivize people and companies to do things, and they can also generate income for the economy. You know, some people might say, you know, this is diversifying away from oil. Oil money won't be around for a long time, therefore we need corporate tax. Again, that's a negative way of looking at it. You need to look at it from a point of view of, in capitalist society and in ESG and, you know, economic, environmental, social governance, the G part, the governance part, means that companies need good governance. So by having corporate tax is another way to have good governance. And in the last sort of few years, there's an extra sort of certificate that companies need to get to stop money laundering and and this is and people should understand that the steps being put in place in terms of how business operate in line with this is actually better, because it means there's better referees on the pitch. It means the league is leveling up, and if the league levels up, and if you're good at business, then better businesses survive. You know, someone told me last week that they're, you know, I told them that we pay 20% corporate tax in Saudi because we're a foreign-owned company, and they said, oh, we'll never do that. As in, you know, they'll do it with a partner or it'll eat their margins.
Yes, of course, yeah.
And they'll try and find a way around. You know, if taxes don't necessarily have to eat your margins. It's just a different way of looking at it.
But that's a very important point you said, which is looking at the bigger picture, which is it's not a matter of just tax that the business owners are going to pay and that's it. It's a matter of raising the level up of the country, A, B, the money laundering part as well. So it's a lot of it is happening because people now are asking questions like, for instance, is it the whole UAE? Is it Dubai only? Of course, it's a federal law, so it's going to be the whole UAE. It will apply for it. Plus, there is a very nice rule, which is companies who are not making over 300K, 360, K, it doesn't apply to them, for instance. So also there are questions about, for instance, the free zones in the country. So there are ways to work around it for smaller companies, but looking at the bigger picture, not taking, people are starting to ask about the income law, for instance, income tax. Is it going to be also next or all of those things? But it's totally different. So getting the information from the right sources is very important. Another thing that was very interesting, people were asking about it, is it gonna attract less investment in the UAE, or is it gonna attract actually more people to invest and put their money in the country and in companies here?
Yeah, I think FDI is a little different in terms of people deciding whether to have a HQ and have an office here. They're kind of related, but what you want is the UAE to remain competitive, and 9% is actually very competitive. The US and Europe would be 20s, right? So corporate tax, there would still be incentives to have your business make profits in this country compared with. And in Ireland, they did very well for many years because they had 12% corporate tax, and it allowed Facebook, Google, Intel, everyone to have 3,000, 5,000, 7,000 employees in Dublin. So it was amazing because all the graduates from the top Dublin universities and ones from Europe could get jobs there, and it really stimulated the economy. Has 0% income tax and corporate tax helped the economy over the last 20, 30 years? Yeah. And, you know, the economic minds working within the UAE will be aware of these things. And this is why I said it's fiscal and monetary policy. They'll be aware of these things. They'll be aware of MOUs and trade agreements with other countries, and you know, they'll be aware of these things. And if you look at Europe, if you look at the Brexit situation, like people who run countries and economics, the fiscal and monetary policy for countries are aware of these levers. You know, whether the currency is pegged to the dollar or not, like all these things are related. What's happening with the Fed at the moment, the fear in the markets because of the perceived interest rate increase that hasn't happened yet, but apparently there's going to be 2 in a row. Like all these sort of things are related. So what's actually good is that the UAE doesn't control interest rates per se. There's something they control, but not really. They're pegged. But what they do control is taxes, and we saw that during the pandemic and just before when VAT was brought in, and you know the Saudi government were short on their budget, so they increased it to 15%.
But still, the numbers now are great in Saudi. Like it proved that the VAT did a good job. You know?
Yeah, I think 5-6% growth. Like I think the GDP is doing well over there, and it's all domestic economy pretty much. Like it's doing really well, but. Yes, but you see why they had to use that lever, because they don't have many levers. And I think when you introduce corporate tax or income tax, you actually start having more levers. You have more things and trade and tariffs. You have more things that you can work with in interest of economic growth. And let's be honest, like a faster growing UAE economy benefits all.
Exactly.
You know, like if the GDP of the UAE is growing higher, if it's 3, 4, 5% over the next 10 years, there will be a lot more investment. People have nicer cars, nicer houses.
That's what
you know, more salaries, because that's what happens when people have to be careful and not get carried away with it. But like that's what happens when the economy grows.
Yeah.
And the UAE is a competitive economy.
And you said like for business owners and but for a person, an individual, how will such thing affect them?
It's a good question. Like it's corporate tax, and income tax affects people directly because you see it in your payslip. But corporate tax actually can affect individuals because it's less profits. It's less, you know, as a business owner, you know, you effectively can manage resources and capital. Yeah. So you can manage people and output, or you can manage funds. And if you have less funds, then you have less allocation to manage growth and to give pay rises and things like that. So, but these are challenges. These are normal business challenges, and there's nothing unusual about it. And the 9% comes, as you mentioned, it comes, you know, that 375 number is dirhams, 375,000 dirhams. So if a company isn't making that profit, so for example, in a positive way, it could incentivize people to pay more salaries, right? Provided you're making profits. Because if you pay more salaries, then you have less profits to be taxed on. But you know, and then it could also encourage people to invest more in businesses. Like in the US and in other countries, depending on the tax incentives like this, people make decisions at the end of the year. So in Q4, you might see spend. You might see more spend because you see, we've made $1 million dirhams profit. And we're coming up to the end of the year and we're a small business. We had a great year, made $1 million dirhams profit. And someone comes to you with a building or an item that you can buy for 600 and 26,000 dirhams.
Yeah.
And you go, okay, so if I did that, then I'd save 90,000 dirhams, 9% of $1 million, but I'd still be taxed on. Those are real things. They're things that accountants and CFOs would be looking at. I wouldn't necessarily go too much into detail on that because I wouldn't want to try and avoid it in that way.
Yeah.
I think it depends on the stage of your company. Like if you shouldn't, if you want to invest in your people, if you want to invest in talent and resources and growth, then do. The other point, and you always interview startups on this, so startups typically don't make profits.
Exactly, right? That's the point. Yeah, exactly.
So startups in the UAE shouldn't really be affected here, because they just do the VC thing and they get lots of funds and they don't actually make profits.
Yeah.
Many of them on the stock market don't make profits.
Yeah.
Angami doesn't make profits. Is losing lots of money each year, and so it doesn't affect them. Yeah. Right.
That's a very important point. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Richard, for being with us and for clarifying this, especially from a business owner point of view. شكرا لكل الناس اللي تابعتنا. أنا بشوفكم بكرة بنفس الموعد. نهاركم سعيد جميعا.